There we go. There we go.
Hare Krishna Lavanga.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
We have Mridanga Prabhu is with us.
Wow. Long time no see, Prabhu.
And also Parameshwar Das is with us.
Oh, Hare
We're on the
Krishna.
side. Hare Krishna.
Wow. Man, it's very good to see you guys. I feel enlivened just by your presence. How was Phoenix Rath Yatra?
Good. Yeah, they're ecstatic.
Nice. All right, so you've already read the purport and the verse and all that?
Yes.
All right, now you have to listen to my realizations. But this is for my benefit. So I was wondering, by reading this verse, a question came to my mind. Have you ever been asked to do something that you didn't want to do? Never. In Krishna consciousness. You know, some superior comes to you and says, Prabhu, I really would like you to do this service. And you're like, I don't want, you're thinking in your mind, I don't want to do that. I remember one time there was this program. It was a new temple program. And it was meant to be an outreach program. And I wasn't involved in any of the organization for it. And 1 hour before this program is supposed to start, somebody came and asked me if I could give the lecture. It was one of the temple authorities. And I said, you know, I'm not really involved in like the organization. I'm not really sure what type of like format they want to go with, who my audience is and all this. Like, I don't know. And he said, you know the philosophy, don't worry. I said, well, is there something you would like me to speak about? And they said, yeah, it's Valentine's Day. So the topic is love. So speak about love. And then he just walked away. So here I am, you know, I know nothing about this program. It's brand new and I have no verse. And I'm just given a topic. It's very big. And so I just said, you know, okay, Prabhu, I'll do my best. And so I went in front of my deities, my Jagannath deities, and I prayed. Jagannath, you say in Bhagavad Gita, you know past, present, and future. So you know who's coming to this program. You know what they need to hear. I don't know anything. So you're going to have to speak through me because I don't know what I'm doing. And somehow or other, some thoughts came to my mind and I took a few notes. And I got up there in the program and I gave a talk about love from the Christian conscious perspective and threw in a few discussion questions to make it interactive. And afterwards, everybody came to me and they said, "Oh, you know, that was really nice." And all the people that were at the program, they'd never been to a temple before, but they all really appreciated it. But then later, some of the organizers didn't like it so much, and I said, "Well, what was the problem?" And they said, "Well, you know, you mentioned Krishna, and you mentioned God, and you know, we don't want to like be like that. You know, we want to use words like the divine, you know, and we just want to create a place where people aren't uncomfortable, you know, with because people they don't like the idea of like using God or using Krishna nowadays, you know, yeah, and also, you know, we want to make the program where it's more of a conversation where you just ask questions the whole entire time and you bring it out of them. And I said, well, they're coming to our turf, you know, if they're coming to our turf, don't they want to know what we're about? But anyway, I just respectfully, said, okay, Hare Krishna. And decided that I probably wouldn't give a class for that program again. But then afterwards, two of the people that came to that program are now initiated devotees. And One was a university professor. One's initiated by Jayapataka Maharaj. She lives in Alachua now. But and you know, I didn't speak for that program until they changed the management, and someone came and begged me, and so then I finally did it again. But but the whole point is, you know, I really, you know, didn't want to do that in the beginning because I didn't know what I was getting into. But I thought, you know, someone who's senior to me has asked me, and they need help, so let me do it and let me try. And even though it wasn't what the organizers kind of had wanted, still the result was better than what I expected because two of those people are now devotees, and the other people that came, they actually really appreciated it and, you know, became friends of the devotees. So this is similar situation that we have going on here. Lord Brahma is coming on this scene because situation's getting serious. You know, Narada Muni, he's a very empowered preacher. And Priyavrata Maharaj has been listening to his instructions about devotional service. And he's made a lot of advancement under the guidance of his guru, and he wants to keep that up. I think everybody who's been in a temple or moved into a Hare Krishna temple, you can all relate to that. You know, it's bliss, it's ecstasy. You're following the instructions of Srila Prabhupada, and you don't want anything to spoil that. You know, you just want to completely dedicate your life to Krishna and serve Krishna. However, the situation is here is that the world needs a king, it needs a leader. And there's much to do when it comes to the maintenance of this material world. We have Lord Brahma, who's the creator, engineer. And once it's created, you have to fill it up with jivas that are desiring to come here. And so therefore you have progenitors like Kardama and Daksha, you know, which is actually kind of why we're in this situation. Kirtaneshwar expertly explained that you know, up until the Prachetas, there was a very good king through the line of Priyavrata's brother. And after the Prachetas, you know, their son Daksha went off and became a progenitor. So now there's a need for a king. And so because Krishna has created this material world for the living entities to come and try to fulfill their desires independently of him, he's also given different rules and regulations that, despite the jiva's tendency to enjoy separately from him, they may gradually reform themselves. So this is where a good king comes in, because a good king is able to inspire citizens in whatever position they're in to not enjoy like animals, but to use the intelligence that they have gotten from their human bodies to engage in their duties while at the same time thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead within their heart. And this is something that Prithu Maharaj, he instructed in his citizens. He said in the fourth canto, chapter 21, I think it's the 25th text, he says, you know, my dear citizens, you know, he's speaking to them and he says, you should execute your duties properly in the terms of your positions of Varna and Ashram. And you should always think of the Supreme Personality of Godhead within your hearts. By doing so, you will protect your own interests and you will bestow mercy upon your king for his welfare after death. So he's making this attempt to elevate his citizens to the real goal of life. Maharaj Parikshit also, the king has this duty to protect the citizens. So we see that when Maharaj Parikshit saw Kali personified beating a cow, immediately he took up action. And then when Kali surrendered to him, you know, and he said, okay, you can't stay here, you know, in my kingdom. You can only stay where there's the breaking of the four regulative principles. And calling to the point where none of that is happening here. So then he actually had to go elsewhere. So a good king protects their citizens in this way from all sorts of degradation. So who better to take up this job than someone like Priyavrata, who knows the goal of life and is not attached to profit, distinction, adoration, doesn't want the fame. You know, he's a great man. And so it's like chapter 3 of the Bhagavad Gita says, whatever action a great man does, the common man follow. Hold on 1 second. I'm just going to grab some water. Oh, sorry. So Krishna, he cares about everyone down here in this prison house. And he wants to give everyone that opportunity. And not everyone is going to go up into a mountain and, hear instructions from their guru and meditate like Priyavrata. So therefore, they have to have a good leader to guide them, to influence them. I remember, I think it was back in the 90s or early 2000s, a lot of people were doing this straight edge thing, like no alcohol, no drugs. It was in like the rock scene, right? And they were doing it because they're, the people they were idolizing in these bands, they were following this process. So then other people started to take it up. I know people that started wearing Tulsi because they became fans of like Shelter and these other Krishna core bands and things like that. So they started to take up what they were doing. So sometimes, devotees will follow something for the sake of just educating the general people how to live. And we see in the story with Prahlad Maharaj, after his father is killed by Nishingadev. And there's these beautiful prayers between Prahlad Maharaj. He's offering them to Nishingadev. And then Nishingadev tells him, tell me whatever you want. I'll give you whatever benediction you like. And Prahlad Maharaj says very humbly, I'm born in an atheistic family. So therefore, naturally I'm inclined to materialistic enjoyment. If you want to give me something, make it where I don't have any material desires in my heart. So then Lord Nishingadev assures him, you won't have any material desires. At the end of your life, you'll go back to Godhead. But then Prahlad Maharaj turns around and says, well, if you want to give me something, liberate my father. I just want him to be liberated. And then Lord Nishingadev tells him, you don't have to worry. Your father's already liberated, along with 21 generations. But then something very interesting happens here. And Lord Nishingadev tells Prahlad Maharaj, those who follow your example will naturally become my pure devotees. You are the best example of my devotee, and others should follow in your footsteps. And then he goes on to say, my dear child, your father has already been purified by the touch of my body at the time of his death. Nevertheless, the duty of a son is to perform the Shraddha ritualistic ceremony after his father's death, so that his father may be promoted to a planetary system where he may become a good citizen and devotee. After performing the ritualistic ceremonies, take charge of your father's kingdom. Sit upon the throne and do not be disturbed by materialistic activities. Please keep your mind fixed upon me without transgressing the injunctions of the Vedas. As a matter of formality, you may perform your duties. So, in this purport here, Prabhupada says, in this regard, Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur says that although Hiranyakashipu was already purified, he had to take birth on a higher planetary system to become a devotee again. Prahlad Maharaj was advised to perform the ritualistic ceremony as a matter of etiquette for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Under no circumstances wants to stop the regulative principles. And then Srila Prabhupada goes on to explain that although a devotee is above all these things, and they have no duty to the demigods, they have no duty ultimately to the forefathers, they have, really no debts to pay, still they'll do these things as a way of setting an example for other people. And then Prabhupada goes on to quote the verse in the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which I've just explained. Whatever action a great man does, common people follow. And then we also see with Dhruva Maharaj, after he saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face, still he actually had to go back and rule the kingdom and set a good example for all of his citizens. So this is how people get the mercy of the Vaishnavas. But also, it's important to point out that Krishna consciousness is not done whimsically. And what's so beautiful about this verse is that Lord Brahma, he's telling Priyavrata, don't worry, you're not going to fall down. You're going to remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And also Prabhupada says here, by the mercy of Vaishnavas or superior, anything is possible. So what Priyavrata is doing here is he's serving great devotees by taking up this service, by filling the role of a king, and by satisfying the devotees, he's satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And it shows that whenever we satisfy the devotees, whenever the devotees are pleased, and whatever position we're in, we won't forget Krishna. Because by serving those devotees who are free of vice, one gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. And for one who has affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva, all material contamination, all material desires are gradually cleansed within the heart. So my husband actually told me that his Guru Maharaj ordered him to get married. In the same way that Priyavrata is ordered to get married. Well, he wasn't asked to take up a kingdom, but he was a very good brahmachari. In fact, he was head pujari in Puerto Rico, doing all the services, taking care of Krishna Balaram, Radhe Shyam, Gornitai, who they have there. He got 20 people to move into the temple when he was preaching there, so he was very well loved. Just the perfect bhakta leader. And then he went to Argentina, and he was preaching there. And then his guru sent him somewhere else, and then he was preaching there. And then the guru told him, okay, you should get married. You should enter family life. And so he went back to school to finish his degree and get his master's. And, he wasn't able to follow that order right away. But he was always thinking, how can I serve my Guru Maharaj? How can I please my Guru Maharaj? And now I look at him today, and he works more than anybody I've ever seen, but he never forgets Krishna. He's up before 5 a.m. every day. He goes to the office. He's manager of security for a bank. And then after he does that, he goes and he teaches in the university in the evenings. And then he comes home at night, and he usually only sleeps about 4 hours or so, and then he gets back up. But whenever I see him, whenever he comes home, it's never like, oh, I spent all day with these people who are not devotees. I'm so exhausted. Material world. He comes home, and it's immediately Krishna Katha. Like the other night, he came home, and he was like, Lavanga, check this, what I wrote. I want you to read it, and we're going to discuss it. And it's 6 pages on Sabanga, Abhideya, and Prayojana. And I said, when did you write this? Because he was making prasadam, and I was reading it. We were discussing. And he said, today at work. I said, 6 pages. Samanda Abhideya and Prayojana. You found time to write this. And then yesterday he sent me a letter that he wrote to his Guru Maharaj asking about a specific service he wants to take up. And it's like a 3-page letter. And he said, read this and let me know what you think. And just like, and then he has, Bhagavad Gita at his desk. And, in between time, he's reading verses when he's at work. And he does the job so perfectly. They say a devotee's expert. He was like, his department was department of the year. He's got enough qualifications to be the boss of his boss. But so people respect him in that way because he does his job so perfectly. But at the same time, they see there's something different about this guy. And they'll see him reading Bhagavad Gita, and they'll be like, what are you reading? What is this? I've gotten so many girls' numbers because people will stop and ask him what he's reading, and then he'll talk to them, and then he'll say, here, give me your number. I'm going to get my wife to talk to you. And then he'll call me up while he's at work and say, oh, yeah, I was talking to this girl. Call her and preach to her and make friends with her. And then in the university, whenever there's like time that he doesn't have to give like a really intense lesson, he's we have evening classes, and then he'll come in the evening classes and bring his students and have his students participate in the evening classes, and they all tell him, oh, you're the best professor, oh, we learned so much from you. And then he has this thing where every semester all the students come to the temple, and they hear about the philosophy, and a lot of them have gotten really into it, and they're asking him, oh, when can we come back, how can we get a copy of these books, which it's not as easy to get a physical copy of Prabhupada's books here as it is in America, because people don't have much money here. So they're always asking, how can I get Bhagavad Gita? How can I get Srimad Bhagavatam? So he's always, always, always preaching in this way. And I never see him complain. I never see him burnt out, because what it is he's wanting to please his spiritual master, and he's wanting to please Srila Prabhupada. And that's his goal. That's what he's thinking about. And he has to put up with me. So for someone to not get burnt out and have to live in, that's saying a lot. But, I've seen in other situations where people were thinking, ah, I have to switch ashrams. I have to switch. And they're like very desperate, and they go and they make some, decision, independent of like consulting with authorities and things like that. And then what ends up happening is they make their own independent change. But then they end up wanting the original situation that they had before. Because the way the mind works is boga and tiag. The mind accepting and rejecting. So therefore, we think, oh, I have to have this. I have to change my life in this way. And then you get it, and then you're like, oh, no, I don't really want this. I don't have the peace that I had before. Things aren't as good. It's like when I was in Florida, it would rain a lot. So when then I came to Arizona, I was kind of like happy that it didn't rain all the time. But after a while, I wanted it to rain again because it was so dusty, and so it's that's the way the material world works. This wanting to enjoy something and then wanting to renounce it, because that's how the mind is. It becomes saturated by oversaturated by this by material enjoyment, and then it wants another form of material enjoyment. However, if you act under the guidance of superiors, under the blessings of Vaishnavas, people who know you, people who you can trust, like in the situation we have here, Priyavrata, Brahma's his grandfather, Brahma's his param guru. So, he has his best interest in mind. And when we act in that way, we can be guided on the path that's best for us instead of acting whimsically, instead of acting independently. So, as we're going to see, Priyavrata is going to take up this service, and he's going to, even get a little bit attached to his wife. But at the end, he's going to be able to give it all up, and he's going to go back to Godhead. And think about it this way, Priyavrata, if he had stayed in the mountain, he would have gone back to Godhead anyway. But because he came and took up this duty, he's pleasing Swayambhuva Manu, who's the emperor of the universe. He's pleasing Lord Brahma. He's pleasing Krishna. So, and he's also helping liberate the citizens of his kingdom. So he does so much more good than he would have done if he had just stayed up on that mountain. Even though Priyavrata doesn't have to do all these things, but he's wanting to help others. And that's also the glory of the Vaishnava. Just like Srila Prabhupada, he didn't have to come to the West. He could have stayed in Vrindavan. In fact, many would have advised him to stay in Vrindavan, because there's this whole thing about how the sannyasi is not supposed to cross the ocean or whatever. But he took all risk to come here to help us. And that's why we're all able to sit around and talk about Srimad Bhagavatam. Otherwise, we would be still completely, totally lost. How am I doing all this time here?
They'll give us a 10-minute warning, so I'll let you know when that happens.
Okay. It
hasn't happened yet. So
okay. All right. So so yeah, there's this story in Mahabharata that I was reading. And there was this guru named Odyadomya. And he had 3 disciples. And so one day he calls his eldest disciple. His name is Aruni. And he tells Iruni, in the fields, the agricultural fields, there's a breach and the water is leaking out, and I need you to stop the leak. Otherwise, all of our crops are going to be ruined. So he very anxiously goes and he takes up his guru's order. And when he gets to the field, he's thinking, how can I stop this leak? And he can't figure out any way to do it. So finally, he just lays down in the ditch and uses his body to stop the water from coming out. But at night, his guru's, going to take his prasadam, and he's with his other two disciples. And he's like, where's Aruni? And then he remembered that he ordered him to go out in the field and stop this leak, but he hadn't come back. So they all run out to the field. And Odyadomya calls, Aruni, where are you? And Aruni jumps up. He's like, I'm here, Gurudev. I'm holding the leak. I'm stopping the leak. And he sees that his disciple has been there all day in the sun, taking all these difficulties for him. So then he blesses his disciple and he says, I give you the blessings that all the Vedas will shine within your heart. You'll know all the Vedas. And then after that, he tells Aruni, okay, you can go home and take up family life. But then there's the next disciple, Upamanyu, I believe his name was. And so he tells Upamanyu one day, go out in the pasture and take care of the cows. So he goes out in the pasture to take care of the cows. And then he comes back one day, and Guru notices that the disciple's a little fat. So he says, how are you so fat? What are you eating? And the disciple says, well, I'm going out and I'm begging after, taking care of the cows, and then I'm eating whatever I collect as alms. And the Guru says, you must offer everything you receive to your Guru first. You shouldn't do like this. So he chastised him. So Upamanyu said, yes, Guruji. And so the next day he goes back out and he brings back all the alms to his Guru. And so to test his disciple, the Guru takes all the alms and doesn't give any to his disciple, and then sends him back out. Well, then when Upamanyu comes back, the Guru notices that he's still a little fat. He's gotten fatter. So he says, what have you done to get fatter? And he says, well, I gave you the alms and then I go out and I beg again. And he says, but still, you're committing the same mistake because you're not offering to your Guru. So then you forbid him from doing this. And then it sends him back out again. But the disciple comes back again, and still he's looking a little fat. So the Guru says, now what are you doing? And the disciple says, well, I'm drinking the milk from the cows since you forbid me to go out and beg. And so the Guru then forbids him from doing this. And then Upamanyu comes back for the final time, and he's still looking a little fat. And he says, okay, I forbid you from going out and begging. I forbid you from drinking the milk of the cow. How are you still like chubby? And he says, well, when the calves drink from the milk of the cows, they leave a little froth there. So I'm eating that froth. And the Guru says, the cows are very merciful to you. But still, you are committing the same offense of not offering to your Guru. And he sends it back out. So then, at this point, Upamanyu starts to get really, really hungry because, his Guru's forbidden him from doing all these things. So then he takes these leaves from a tree, very pungent leaves, and he eats them. But then he goes blind from eating them, and he falls into a ditch. So his Guru comes out to look for him because he hasn't come back home. And he finds him in this ditch, and he's blind, and he can't get out. And so his Guru tells him, say some prayers to the Ashwamini Kumaras, and they'll come give you some herbs to heal you. So Upamanyu does this, and the Ashwamini Kumaras come. And they give him a cake, and they say, this cake will cure your blindness.
We got a 10-minute warning right now.
Okay, we're doing good. Yeah. This cake will cure your blindness if you eat it. So Upamanyu thinks to eat it, but then he says, no, my Guru is not here. And then the Ashwini Kumars tell him, well, you know, one time your guru was in a similar situation, and he ate the cake without offering it to his guru, so therefore you can take. And Ubangi says, no, I will not take it unless I first offer it to my spiritual master. And the Ashwini Kumars were so pleased with him that they immediately restored his sight. And then the guru saw what happened, and then the guru came to him and he said, I give you my blessings that all the purports of the Vedas will shine within your heart. So therefore, you know, you see one disciple, you know, he got it very easily, and then he got the blessings of the guru. The other disciple, you know, he was a work in progress, but still the mercy of guru was there. And, you know, he got the patience of guru was there. And in the end, he also got the mercy of guru. So when we have this, you know, faith in the spiritual master and wanting to serve the spiritual master, you know, the messages of Krishna, all the purports of the Vedas, they stay within our hearts. So in any position that we go in, we're able to remain free from material contamination and free from becoming entangled. If we keep that desire to please Guru and to please Krishna within our hearts, we can take up ruling a universe or doing anything like that. And every service that we do will be good. You know, I see that with Mukunda. You know, you put him in anything, materially or spiritually, it's very expert. You put him in the temple, he'll lead an expert kirtan, he'll give an amazing class. You put him in the kitchen, he'll cook an amazing Sunday feast. You know, but you put him in the security of the bank and he'll be the best security manager, he'll be the best, you know, professor. And it's such a good example for me to see, you know, to see someone who's so expert at doing all of these things, but the whole desire is I'm doing this because my guru wants me to do this. Because I want to please my guru and I want to please Krishna. And in that way, you see that you won't be caught up in things and you won't be lost. And we see in the end Priyavrata wasn't lost. It's because he took up this service, which is not an easy service. You know, it's not easy to rule the world, but he took it up. And he pleased Lord Brahma, and he pleased Swayambhuva Manu, and he pleased the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he was successful. He went back to Godhead. I believe his wife went back to Godhead. He created good descendants for giving examples to all the fallen conditioned souls. So, and in that way, Priyavrata was successful. And the lesson that we can take is that we can be successful too if the heart is in the right place. So I'll stop here. Questions or comments?
So I guess I have a question.
Okay.
Sometimes, you know, like my Gurudev, he said that I should, you know, talk, I should give classes, but like I'm not very good at giving classes. And so what gives? What if I don't please him by not being good at what he wants me to do?
Well, you're pleasing him by following the order. You know, Krishna says, you know, and you know, with every endeavor that we do, there might be some fault in it. You are very good at giving classes, by the way. You know, but when our service, let's just say hypothetically, there is some imperfection. But if Guru is pleased, then all success is there. And within the order comes the ability. Prabhupada said that. Within the order of the spiritual master comes the ability to do that service. So, and Prabhupada also told Vishaka Devi Dasi, you know, she was written for back the Godhead for many years. And one of the memories I remember that she told was when she wrote her first article. Prabhupada read it and he said it's very good. And he said it's not perfect yet, but if you go on writing, it will become perfect. You know, so she's gone on writing and she writes very good articles for Back to God. I don't know if you guys have read some of those articles. I've read a few of them, you know, over the years. You know, and so that's the instruction, you know, if we're doing what Guru wants us to do, the ability to do that comes within the order. And gradually we will get better at it. You know, no one's expert at anything when they first start. I mean, how many good book distributors, you know, went out and did 100 books on their first day? You know, I mean, you get better at it with time. You learn what to say with time. Krishna empowers you, and you know you're able to take it up because you're doing what Guru wants you to do. There are many devotees of Prabhupada in that situation, when they didn't know what they were doing. Because Prabhupada wanted them to do it, they took it up and they became expert. Yes, Nadia Bihari.
Oh, there's no mic.
No.
Okay. Jai, Hare Krishna Lavangaji, so nice to see you.
Hare
I don't
Krishna.
realize how deprived I am of not hearing from you until I hear from you. One thing I was thinking about that was just that perfection is the goal, but it makes me think about how you don't need perfection for the love to be there. Like, for instance, some of my favorite kirtans is when somebody isn't, quote unquote, singing so well, or
Right.
things are a little bit off, and it just creates it can create a fun, kind of playful atmosphere where I can feel even more love from
Yeah.
it. So, but then also, I was thinking about blessings, and so we get blessings from following orders, like you're saying, being friendly to the devotees, helping the devotees. But it made me think about this whole idea or thing of asking for blessings, because you don't see that so much, and every once in a while you see it, and then a devotee just seems like it's kind of uncomfortable for them. Or I've heard a funny thing of a senior devotee just being like, blessings, blessings, blessings. And so, do you have anything to say about that, the etiquette, or how that goes? Should we ever ask senior devotees for blessings, literally just saying that?
Well, yeah, but also, it depends on what we're asking for blessings for. Because some people just come and they ask for blessings as like a formality, because it's like a senior devotee and I should ask for blessings. So sometimes you'll see that in certain cultures. But with asking for blessings from senior devotees specifically, especially when we're taking up a type of service, it's important to, ask for blessings for these types of things. um ask for blessings that what we can do can be pleasing to Guru and Krishna. you know have something in mind that what you're asking for blessings for. Because if just give me your blessings. Blessings for what? In one sense, the blessings are already there for practicing Krishna consciousness, because we have Srila Prabhupada's books, we have his instructions. So it's true that the blessings are already there in those instructions. But at the same time, when we're serving in a certain way, getting those blessings from a superior that we can be successful can be very powerful, because they can also give us advice, they can give us further instructions and things like that. So have good intents when you're asking for blessings. I would say if you have something specific that you want to ask for blessings for, that's a good thing. And of course, with senior devotees, they're very humble. So it's like, they don't want to be, of course, they don't maybe necessarily feel that they have the power to give blessings. But still, as we should do it anyway. Does that help?
Yeah, definitely. It reminds me of a nice thing I heard my Guru Dave said, that when somebody asked for his blessings, he said, I don't have any blessings to give, but my Srila Guru Dave, Srila Prabhupada, he has all the blessings of, an ocean of blessings. So please take those.
So and I'll tell you what I do when people come to me and do that. Like I've had
You have about 1 minute.
You have less than a minute.
okay. So when people come, like I've had some brahmacharis come to me and ask for blessings that they can stay brahmachari. So I just say, if I have any power to give blessings, I give you blessings that you will stay brahmachari for as long as you want to stay brahmachari.
Jai.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Prabhus. I won't be able to give the class next week. But the weeks after that I will be available.
All right. Well, we look forward to seeing you the week after next.
Jai Sandamani Prabhu.
I'm hearing.